ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामीति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं पदमानन्दं माधवम्। हरे कृष्ण dear devotees. So we are continuing the study of Brahma-saṁhitā. On our journey of study of this Brahma-saṁhitā, last week we had a break, but before that we did study the very first verse of the 5th chapter of Brahma-saṁhitā, and we are going to continue with the second verse, where there is a description, beautiful description of the Gokula, which is nothing but Goloka Vrindavan also, which says, sahasra-patra-kamalaṁ gokulākhyaṁ mahat padam tat-karṇikāraṁ tad-dhāma tad-anantāṁśa-sambhavam. So here in translation, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur says, the spiritual place of transcendental pastimes of Kṛṣṇa is portrayed in the second verse. The super excellent station of Kṛṣṇa, which is known as Gokula, has thousands of petals and a corolla like that of a lotus sprouted from a part of his infinitary aspect, that is Ananta. The whorl of the leaves being the actual abode of Kṛṣṇa. So here there is a description of Kṛṣṇa's abode, the spiritual planetary system, Goloka Vrindavan. But here it is mentioned as Gokula, which Kṛṣṇa brings here in this material planet, which is non-different from Goloka Vrindavan, which is called as mahat padam, or the greatest or the super excellent station, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions here. So let's go through quickly first paragraph of the purport. Gokula, like Goloka, is not a created mundane plain bounded character, forms the display of his unlimited potency and his propagating manifestation. Baldev is the mainstay of that energy. The transcendental entity of Baldev has two aspects, viz. Infinite spiritual manifestation and infinite accommodating space for the insentient or the unconscious gross things. The unique quadrantal delineation of material universe will be dealt within the proper place, and the tri-quadrantal extensions of the transcendental infinitary field of the Almighty, unlamenting, non-perishing and non-apprehending unlimited situations with halo, which are fully spiritual majestic foilation. This very majestical extension portrays the manifested lofty rich feature of the vast unlimited region of greater atmosphere, which is the resplendent location wholly beyond the realm of mundane nature or further shore of Vraja, surrounded by the halo of Brahman or indistinguishable entity. The majestical power of unlimited spirit emanates on the upper portion of luminous sphere into the most charming Gokula or eternally existing Goloka, exceedingly beautified by the assorted display of effulgence. Some designate this region as the abode of the Supreme Narayan, that is Kṛṣṇa himself, the original fountainhead. Hence, Gokula, which is identical with Goloka, is the supreme plane. The same sphere shines as Goloka and Gokula respectively by its upper or transcendental and lower or mundane situations. So here in this verse, it describes the supreme abode known as Gokula, which is nothing but, or which is same as the Goloka Vrindavan, which is so beautiful and majestic. It is mentioned, it is compared to a lotus flower of thousands of petals. A lotus is considered generally one of the most beautiful flowers. And whenever we always read, whenever Krishna's limbs are referred, they are always compared to a lotus flower, as Kunti Devi also refers in her prayers. Namah Pankaja Nabhaya, Namah Pankaja Maline, Namah Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajangre, where it is that your eyes are like a lotus petals, then your mouth is also compared to lotus, your nabi is also lotus feet. We always refer to Krishna as a, compared his limbs with lotus. So his abode, his supreme dhama, is also compared to a gigantic lotus flower with thousands of lotus petals. And the world, the center of that lotus, which is the core of the lotus, is the supreme abode or the supreme dhama of the supreme personality of Godhead, that is Krishna himself. Now, in this verse, the word Gokula is mentioned here, which is, so that is called as gokulākhyaṁ. So Gokula is also referred in some places. We were reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the place of Gopals. And in one of the pastimes which we read in the past, Damodar Leela, where the two devatas, the Nalkubera and Maniguru, when they were liberated by Lord Shri Krishna or Lord Damodar, when they offer him prayers, they refer to Krishna as Gokuleshwar. So in these prayers here, they are Itham Sankirtita Stabhya Bhagavan Gokuleshwara. So they are referring him as Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Gokuleshwar. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of all, was certainly a Gokuleshwar. That Prabhupada writes in the translation, is the Master of Gokula. So that is the Gokula Dham here is mentioned. That supreme abode is referred as Gokula. And also it is referred as mahat padam. Mahat is super excellent and padam is station or the place or dham. Or mahat can also be referred as the supreme great personality, that is Krishna himself, the super excellent or supreme personality. And his dhama or padam is also referred as mahat padam. And then in the end, how it is created, it is also mentioned, tad-anantāṁśa-sambhavam. So it is created by his potency or ananta. So tad-anantāṁśa-sambhavam, it is created by his spiritual potency, which is the potency of Lord Ananta or Baldev or Balram, who is also called as Ananta. And Balram is the one who is the source or support of that spiritual energy, who is the first expansion or the swamsha expansion of the Lord. And therefore, there is no difference between the potency of Lord Krishna and potency of Lord Balram. And as we know, Balram is always ever serving Lord Krishna with his all energies. And he is always serving him as whenever Krishna goes, if Krishna is walking, he becomes his slippers or to protect his lotus feet. Or whenever Krishna wants to sleep, he becomes his bed. Or whenever Krishna is, also we remember when Krishna appeared in this material world and Vasudeva was carrying him from Mathura to Gokul. It was raining heavily, it was torrents of rain. And when Vasudeva was carrying on his head in a basket, Lord Ananta came as his umbrella to protect or to serve Krishna. So Balram is always serving Krishna by his different energies, and he is expanding to serve Lord Krishna. And he is the one who is also the creator, or he's expanding him to build this or create this Gokula or Goloka Vrindavan, tad-anantāṁśa-sambhavam. And that's why Balram, if you know, Balram is considered as a first or the original Guru, or he's the Guru Tattva. And that's why Guru, because he shows us how to serve Krishna. And just like our spiritual master shows us through his actions, through his instructions, how to serve Krishna. So uh, our guru or spiritual master is considered as representative of Balram. That Lord Balram is here in purport, it is said that he has two aspects. That is the infinite spiritual manifestation. He expands infinitely in the spiritual, the Brahman expansion or the Brahman effulgence, here also mentioned as Brahman hello, that his infinite spiritual manifestation and infinite accommodating space for the whole material creation, which is insentient or unconscious gross things that is mentioned here. So these are the two expansions of Lord Balram, which are always by those energies, he is ever ready to serve Krishna. And this material energy, which is also called as Ekapada Vibhuti, or in the purport, it is called as uniquadrantal delineation here. So 1/4 of the energy, which is the material energy of the Lord, which is on one side of the river Viraja. Here it is mentioned on the our shore of river Viraja, which is surrounded by the halo or the effulgence of Brahman, which is the spiritual energy, which is the triquadrantal or the Tripada Vibhuti. So Viraja river is separating the spiritual world or the spiritual creation and the material creation. And on the material creation side, where there is a causal ocean, where we learn that Mahavishnu is there, and then the whole material creation happens, and then there are unlimited universes are there. So there are innumerable material universes. On the other shore of the Viraja river, in the same manner, there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets. Those are all the spiritual universes or the spiritual planets, where in each Vaikuntha planet there is the personality of Godhead in different Narayana expansions. Chaturbhuja, in his Chaturbhuja form is there. And the supreme spiritual place in all the Vaikuntha planets is the Goloka Vrindavan. That's what we are, Brahmaji, in this Brahma-saṁhitā is described here, that Goloka Vrindavan. And these material universes, actually, I was reading in one of the Chaitanya Charitamrita part where Vasudeva Datta requests Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that please, he feels so compassionate about all the living entities who are suffering in this universe that he requests Lord Chaitanya, please give me everybody, all the living entities' sins to me, and please free them. And that's where Lord Chaitanya says, okay, you can free all the living entities in this universe, but there are innumerable universes. So this one universe is insignificant place, and that's where he explains him that just as there are millions of fruits of Udambara tree, millions of universes float on the water of the river Viraja. So we can imagine how beyond our imagination this even the material universe or the material creation is, which is created of innumerable universes. So what to say about the expansions in the or the Brahman world or the spiritual creation, which is the Tripada Vibhuti or the triquadrantal expansion that is mentioned here. So it is understood that other side of the Viraja river is the all the Brahman creation or the Brahman effulgence or the spiritual planetary system. And the supreme sphere that is effulgent one, that is called as the Goloka Vrindavan. Goloka or Gokula, it is also referred as Gokula, which we'll see in a minute. In the second paragraph, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur refers to Sanatan Goswami's Brihad Bhagavatam. So let's read this and we can expand on that a little bit. Shri Sanatan Goswami has told us as follows in his Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which embodies the final essence of all the books of instruction. He refers here about Kṛṣṇa. He displays his pastimes here in this land as he is used to do in Goloka. So when he is referring to this land, that is the Gokula Vrindavan in this material creation where Krishna brings that here. The difference between the two planes lies only in their locations as high and low. That is, in other words, Krishna plays exactly the same part in Goloka as he exhibit in this mundane plane of Gokula. There is practically no difference between Gokul and Goloka, save that this what exists in the shape of Goloka in upper region is the same as Gokula in the mundane plane when Krishna shows his various activities there. Sri Jiva Goswami has also inculcated the same in the Bhagavata Sandarbha of his sixth treatise. To ascertain the plane of Goloka Vrindavan is the eternal abode of Krishna, and Goloka and Vrindavan. Now here, when he says Vrindavan, that is the in the material world, are identical one. And though both are identical, yet Krishna's inconceivable energy has made Goloka the acme or pinnacle of this spiritual kingdom, and Gokula or of Mathura province forming a part of the mundane plane, which is also a manifestation of tri-quadrantal vibhuti or tripada vibhuti, which is conducting majesty. Now, the conditioned souls or the poor human understanding cannot possibly make how the extensive tri-quadrantal, which is beyond human comprehension, can be accommodated in this limited neither material universe of the uniquadrantal or Ekapada Vibhuti disclosure. Goloka is a spiritual plane, hence his condensed position in the region of material shape, time, etc. is in no way restricted but unlimitedly manifested with his full bottomless propriety. But conditioned souls like us are apt to assert a material conception in regard to Gokula by their miserable senses so as to bring him below the level of their intellect. Though the eye of an observer is impeded by cloud when gazing at sun, and though the tiny cloud can never really cover the sun, still the clouded vision apparently observes the sun as covered by the cloud. In just the same way, the conditioned soul, with their obscured intelligence, senses, and decisions, accept Gokula as a place of measurable land. We can see Gokula from Goloka, which is eternal. This is also a mystery. The attainment of final beatitude is the success in attaining one's eternal self. The success in identifying the true self is finally achieved when the screen of gross and subtle coils of the conditioned soul is removed by the sweet will of Krishna. Only by his mercy, when our gross body and even the subtle body, we are freed from that, then only we can see the real, what real Gokula is. However, the idea of Goloka is seen to differ from Gokula till the success in unalloyed devotion is achieved. The transcendental plane of infinite spiritual manifestation, having thousands of petals and corolla like those of lotus, is Gokula, the eternal abode of Krishna. So here there is description of Goloka and how Gokula is manifested in this material world. But for us, the conditioned souls, so even though by learning through scriptures and we are trying to understand this, it is like standing on the shore of endless, incomprehensible, unfathomable ocean of that rasas or ocean of that spiritual energy. And even when we stand on the shore of that, we can taste only probably a minute drop of that rasa. Why? Because the ocean of rasa, of that spiritual and wonderful, all-pervading, endless, even though it is described in our own words, or we try to describe it, or we try to understand it, our words are inevitably always be impure and incomplete. We will not be able to comprehend, or we will not be able to understand that, because we are covered by the energy or the illusory energy of Krishna. Even if Lord Krishna or the Supreme Lord himself describes it to us, as he does in Bhagavad Gita, he gives a glimpse. He says that parastasmat tu bhav anya vyakta avyakta sanatana yassa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyassu na vinashyati, where he says that when he gives the explanation in the 8th chapter, that he gives description that this material world is annihilated and created again and again, and the duration of Brahma's life, he explains that sahasra yuga paryantam. And after that, and then he mentions that this material creation is manifested and unmanifested again and again. It is created and annihilated. But then he said that parastasmatu bhav anya, that other than this whole material creation, there is another superior energy, para, vyakta avyakta sanatana, that is never unmanifested or manifested. It is always there. Parastasmattu bhavanyo vyakta vyakta sanatana yassa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyassu na vinashyati. And whenever this whole material creation is annihilated, nashyassu, but that particular part, the tripada vibhuti, the material, the spiritual creation, that remains as it is. Avyaktokshara ityukta stamaham paramam gati. So even though he, Lord Krishna himself, describes this, or even in 15 chapters he says that na tad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavaka, that spiritual kingdom of mine doesn't need sun or moon or electricity or fire to light, because it is self-effulgent. So even though he tries to describe, but the reader or the listener, because they are covered by the material impressions, they will have limited understanding. They will not be able to comprehend it. They will not be able to understand it perfectly and completely, because the ocean of rasa and then the expansion of that spiritual energy is beyond our comprehension. It is beyond limits. So that's why even though we are just like standing on the ocean, we are trying to comprehend, we are trying to understand that, but we can probably taste only a minute drop of that rasa or that whole spiritual understanding. So then, what is our position then? Is it not, we cannot understand this? And that's where Gokula comes in picture. So Lord Krishna, he can make it possible by performing his pastimes even in this mundane planet, in this mundane world. So when he appears in this material world, like 5,000 years ago, when he appeared, he brings the whole Goloka Vrindavan with him to perform those pastimes in this mundane world. So one may think that Goloka Vrindavan is unimaginable, it is endless. Just how can he fit that in this tiny material world? And to just give us comparison, we know that this earthly planet and the Gokula or Vrindavan, where Krishna performed these pastimes, in just a small place, sometimes we consider as a measurable place in this on this earthly planet. So just to give some comparison, the sun planet here in this material world is said to be about 1.3 million times bigger than the earthly planet. Inside the sun, if we fit multiple Earths, we can fit about 1.3 million Earths. And this sun is just a small, insignificant part of the whole universe. And one universe is just a small, insignificant part of the whole creation, which has unlimited universes. So how can that expanded, unlimited Goloka Vrindavan can fit in this material world? So for that, we just have to consider that Krishna's two aspects. One is he's almighty, he's all powerful. And the second is with his yoga shakti or his potency, he can do anything he likes, because he's called as Yogeshwara, or he's the Ishwara or controller of all the yoga potencies, like the Ashtasiddhis, which can be achieved by yoga, Prapti, Ishita, Vashita, Anima, Lagima, and so on. So Krishna is Yogeshwara. So he can shrink this whole Goloka Vrindavan, sahasra-patra-kamalaṁ, in a small place and bring it with him in this mundane world, and he performs the same pastimes he is eternally performing in that spiritual world called Goloka Vrindavan. And that's why this world, or the Gokula, which is in this material world, is non-different from the spiritual Goloka Vrindavan. And that's where Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur gives us an example that just like a tiny cloud, which is, if we compare to a sun planet, is very small, tiny, but that covers the observer's eye, and the observer cannot be able to see, he will not be able to see the sun, but only by sun's energy that cloud can disappear. The sun's energy can disperse that cloud, and then the observer will be able to see, the person will be able to see the sun. In the same manner, even though we cannot see or understand Krishna's planet system, but just by Krishna's mercy, when we listen to his instruction, we follow his instruction, and we, with our whole heart, following his process, serve him and engage in his devotional service, we will be able to see that Goloka Vrindavan eventually. And the process is very simple, that as he gives in many places, as he says in the Bhagavad Gita, how one can rise above the three modes of material nature which are binding us or which are covering us. He says that Mam chayo vebicharena bhakti yogena savate sagunan samatittetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in avyabichari bhakti of me, then he can transcend those material modes of nature. Or the other simple process is always hearing his instructions or his pastimes. Shrunvatam svakatha Kṛṣṇa punya shravana kirtana hridi antasto hi abhadrani vidunoti surutsatam. By just hearing his pastimes, which are given by acharyas and which are given in Srimad Bhagavatam, or here, all abhadra, all the impurities in our hearts will be cleansed. And then nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. When that abhadra or impurities are removed, then bhaktir bhavati naishtiki, then we can establish that bhakti. And just by chanting his name, we will be able to see, and just by Krishna's mercy, by, as it is said, that curtain or removed by only Krishna's supreme will, is sweet will, and then we will be able to see that sahasra-patra-kamalaṁ gokulākhyaṁ mahat padam. So it's time. So I'll stop here, and we can take quick some reflections, and maybe if there are long questions, we'll discuss those next time. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So any thoughts or reflections?
Radhā-Rañjana Prabhu, thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
For the beautiful description of Gokula. Thank you very much for bringing all the cross references from different places. Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Are you preparing any PowerPoint or notes, Prabhu, separately?
I am preparing Word document notes, Prabhu. PowerPoint, I thought, but then it was I realized that it was time consuming. Even the notes.
Okay. Okay, I
spent
understand.
whole day.
Yes. So whatever notes you are making, if it is not too confidential, if you can share with everyone in the group.
I will have to clean those up a little bit, because those are just like messed up notes here and there.
Okay.
But I'll clean those up and I'll share, Prabhu. Yes.
Sure. Okay, Prabhu. Hare.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Radha.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. It's a wonderful class, and it's very depth is there in this purport and translation, everything.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. You've taken us to the Goloka Vrindavan, so amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll stop here today then.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very nicely explained.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Narottam.
Yes,
One chapel.
Patitānaṁ pāvanebhyo vaishnavavindaki jai.